the civil service, he lectured at Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, between 1976 and 1990. Also, he lectured briefly at Ladoke Akintola University between 1990 and 1991, and served as visiting lecturer at the University of Zimbabwe for the session 1989-1990. He attended several postdoctoral exposures, amongst which are Howard University, Washington, D.C., several leadership trainings, notably at Harvard University, British Council, as well as first responder trainings by United States government. While in the university system, his main areas of research included nutritional chemistry, environmental chemistry, and analytical chemistry. He has to his credit over 100 publications in reputable local and international journals. He also served as a reviewer to many journals and external examiners to many universities. He supervised many master's and PhD students while in the university. In the civil service, he played major roles in environmental management, education, labor, agriculture, water resources management and policies, among others. He led many Nigeria delegations to many United Nations, international conventions and protocols, notably Climate Change Convention and Protocols, ozone layer protection, chemical weapons, chemical management, among others. He was chairman of many ad hoc committees of the United Nations, attending the United Nations General Assembly many times, and was elected as the chairman, Multilateral Fund for the Montreal Protocol of the Ozone Depleting Substance. He also co-chaired the Clean Development Mechanism, Technology Transfer of Climate Change Convention, the Best Available Technologies, Best Environmentally Friendly Technologies, among several of such appointments. Professor Afolabi served on many public and private sector boards, either as member or chairman. He has also been chairman and pro-chancellor of 2 universities in the past, and presently on the council of 2 universities and on the board of trustees of 1. He has conducted visitation panel assignments to universities, which included chairmanship of the presidential visitation panel to Ahmadu Bello University between the year 2011 and 2015. Also, between the year 2016 and 2020. He was also a member of the committee for the review of ministries, departments, and agencies of the federal government created posts in 2012. Professor Afolabi is a recipient of many awards, so I'm just going to run through a few of these awards. He was a fellow of International Atomic Energy Agency. He was awarded a Fellow Award in 1983. Also, African Productivity Merit Award, year 2004, awarded by Marigold New Magazine. Distinguished Healthcare Award in the year 2004. Distinguished Healthcare Award, as well as Distinguished Scientist Award in the year 2004 by Faculty of Science of Obafemi Awolowo University. Outstanding Contributors Award in the year 2007 by United Nations Environment Program. Then also was awarded Fellow in the year 2007 by Institute of Chartered Chemists of Nigeria, as well as Family of the Year Award by Ibadan Anglican Diocese in the year 2007. Outstanding Contribution and Exemplary Leadership Award as Director, Pollution Control in the year 2007 by Federal Ministry of Environment. Award of Excellence in the year 2007 by St. Mary's Anglican Church, Oluyole Estate in Ibadan. Award for Meritorious Service in the year 2008 by Environmental Health Officers Registration Council of Nigeria. Distinguished Service Award in the year 2008 by Nigerian Committee on Large Dams. Fellow 2008 by Nigeria Institute of Food Science and Technology. Award of Merit for Contribution for Development of Public Health in Africa in the year 2008 by Faculty of Public Health, College of Medicine, University of Ibadan. Distinguished Scholar Award in the year 2009 by Wesley University. Fellow Institute of Public Analysts of Nigeria in the year 2011. Also a Fellow of Michael Imodu Institute for Labor Studies in the year 2011. And for the national honors, he was conferred the honor of Officer of the Niger in the year 2009, as well as Commander of the Federal Republic, CFR, in the year 2010-11. Also, he was awarded Are Bobajiro of Bagura, as well as Fimotolu of Edaland, Otun Asiwaju of Ibadan. So these are the few awards that Professor Oladapo have been awarded. So it's my pleasure and with great excitement, I welcome on board Professor Oladapo Afolabi. Thank you. You are welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear, sir.
Thank you very much. Let me apologize upfront that I really wrote in my calendar a different date, which is tomorrow. So I had to rush out of the investiture hall in the villa and left all my materials in Lagos because I was supposed to return to Lagos today. But so I'm really poorly prepared, but I will try to see how much of a justification I can do to this topic. So distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me start by admitting upfront that I've chosen a topic which I'm not too competent to handle because I'm neither a geologist, meteorologist, nor a climatologist. Neither am I a geographer, but I've chosen it all the same because the largest segment of the society, including some academics who are expected to know better, are still in the shallow of this debate. As incompetent as I am, I think that this lecture will deepen and broaden the listeners' understanding and trigger the required curiosity to know more and perhaps unleash the creativity and the energy required to make original contributions to debate and advance knowledge towards combating climate change and mitigating its effects. I will try to discuss this topic under about 8 headings. I will want to answer the question, what is climate change? I will also like to answer the question, why are we concerned about climate change? I will also try to look at what efforts the United Nations and other countries have put together, including their position on climate change. I will also attempt to get us to look at the climate change skeptics. Why don't they believe there is climate change? And I will also try to hazard a guess on why the United States Republicans have been skeptical about climate change. We look at Nigeria's commitment to climate change, and we also look at combating climate change and its impact as a topic and opportunities for researchers, innovators, and entrepreneurs. And then I'll be able to conclude. I hope I can do this. How many minutes for me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Huh?
You have 20 minutes up front, sir.
20 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me try my best. So, looking at the fundamentals, we may ask, what is climate change? Climate change occurs when changes in Earth's climate result in new weather patterns that remains in place for an extended period of time. Let's get that clear. Weather patterns extended for a long period of time. The length of time can be as short as a few decades. When we say decades, as short as a few decades, and could be as long as millions of years. Scientists have identified many episodes of climate change during Earth's geological history, which had unique characteristics in terms of atmospheric composition, temperature range, weather patterns, life forms, continental distributions. So I don't waste too much time on this, but let me just say clearly that what we describe as climate change today does not qualify to be described as climate change, because what we're experiencing is so short in terms of the changes and parameters in the atmosphere. But for some curious reason, the word climate change, coined by the United Nations, has stuck as a description of what we're experiencing now. Because indeed, when we look at the various types of climates that our Earth, our planet, has experienced, you see that the Earth alternates, not maybe equally, but somehow alternates between what we call the greenhouse gas periods and the ice, as in ice block, ice house periods. That is the hot planet and the cold planet. Just to remind ourselves is to know that in history so far, we had a greenhouse period that ran from 4.6 to 2.4 billion years ago. That is, we had all this carbon dioxide, whatever, methane, all in the atmosphere, 4.6 to 2.4 billion years ago. What followed that was what they call the Huronian glaciation, an ice house period that ran from 2.4 to 2.1 years ago. Then we had about 720 to 635 million years ago, a Cryogenian ice house period. Then we had a greenhouse period, again about 635 to 450 years ago. We had another glaciation period about 450 to 420 million years ago. The last ice age that we had was an ice house period, was 360 to 260 million years ago. And we had a greenhouse period of 260 to 3.9 million years ago. And then we had the late Cenozoic ice age, which is the current ice house period. It began 33.9 million years ago. So where we are now is really the cold Earth. It's not the greenhouse Earth. But that's not to say that scientists have no reason to worry about climate change, because since industrialization, we've had anthropogenic sources of greenhouse gases increasing. So we have carbon dioxide.
Transform. One of it is this ABC series.
Can you, is there something, should I continue? I had someone talking.
Yes, sir. Please, you can continue, sir.
But you can hear me. I'm sorry, I'm not supporting this with slides. As I said, I learned my materials in Lagos. But
Okay, sir. We are projecting you.
But can people follow me though?
Slides from here as well.
Okay, this is what
Yes,
the
sir.
secretary just sent. Yeah. So with this type of understanding that our Earth, depending on its distance and angle of inclination to the sun, could either be cold or greenhouse hot. So it's not a matter of seriously that it is the anthropogenic sources that is causing these major events that normally geological observations present to us. But again, we still need to discuss within the principles of the UNFCCC, United Nations Framework for Climate Change Convention, which has stated the climate change ambition. Let me say that like that. Because I have 20 minutes, let me just go quickly to say that because United Nations and scientists, especially the IPCC, have established that there's climate change because of rise in temperature of 1.5 to almost 2 degrees centigrade over and above in the last 100 years, we are worried because a few points, like 0.1 increase in temperature are reasons to be concerned. As it is now, with the temperature rise, we're having many weather events. We have serious hurricanes, storms, floods. We have droughts in many places. We have, as a consequence of whether drought or flood, sea level rise. We have many coastlines inundated and covered, and we also have in the desert area, due to drought, deforestation and expansion of the desert, which has social consequences. Agriculture is highly impacted, and you find the others moving to greener area. We're having a conflict just the way we have in Nigeria now, the herdsmen moving down, wanting greener pasture. And so we have reason to worry. Also, more than all these physical things that we can see, it has impacts on our genetic formation itself. To what extent can our cell makeup withstand this temperature variation or variabilities? So we need to be concerned. If we do not do something, we cannot predict, even as scientists, how much resilience our own biological system has as it is constituted. I know we have capacity to adapt and mutate to something that will be able to fight whatever variations we have. But the good news is that we have survived over the centuries, from Ice Age, Glacial Age to the present. And our hope is also that we'll be able to survive whatever we are causing because of climate change, as is defined by the UNFCCC. We also know that this has a lot of economic impact. Not to discuss the destructions and damages caused by either the flooding, the droughts, increased fire due to droughts. We know also that our health also affected by this climate change. So, as a scientist, we have evidence to say that climate change is real. But then, why do we have skeptics? Why do we have people who disagree? Today, we have about 95% of scientists agree that there is climate change. But the 5% that did not agree are basing their understanding on this geological history and prediction of geological events, and the fact that our present planet is indeed the ice planet, the cold planet. What they projected is that this planet will get into colder and more serious drop in temperature, not increase in temperature. For millions of years, we are not sure whether this will last us up to 55 million years, according to their prediction. But that the onset of the glacier time could be delayed by this 1 degree, 1.9 degree centigrade increase. You can see why some people do not believe. So the truth of the matter is that this is a topic of debate. We cannot absolutely say that there's climate change. At the same time, we cannot say there's no climate change. But in terms of weight of evidence, as we know it today, there is climate change. And more than 95% of scientists believe there's climate change. So I want us to leave this room to believe there's climate change. One other topic, which I said could be also discussed, is why are the Republicans, United States Republicans, why are they not supporting climate change as a concept? If I may hazard a guess, you know, the Industrial Revolution and the economic civilization of today is energy-driven. And we started a number of things in my own lifetime. The first where I played a major role is the ozone depleting substances that create holes in the ozone layer. That culprit was CFC, Freon. But the owner of the patent for Freon is DuPont. And around 1975, 1976, thereabouts, or a bit earlier, the patent was going to expire, which meant that the cooling agent in many of our refrigerators, air conditioners, was going to become open and people can manufacture and use. Then the story came, CFC is attacking the ozone layer.
I can say to you all the other alternatives, because I used to be the chairman of the implementation committee for the Montreal Protocol. We managed that, that convention. All the other options that we approved, they were either not as effective in the cooling, and that they are also attacking the ozone layer, maybe to a lesser extent, but they do. So we can also tell a story before I get to this energy issue. Was that, is it not Strawberry or so? The compound that is used to preserve it is a chemical. And when it evaporates, because it does, when you apply it, it also attacks the ozone layer. So in our convention, we said we should stop using that. And the Europeans, they found alternative to it. The Americans had not found alternative to the chemical. So they refused to join us. So you can see their national interest, their economic interests. So why these Republicans are not joining now is that what was required in all the conventions was that they should reduce the emission of CO2 to pre-levels of 1995. I'm trying to simplify it. What the other nations had to do, the action they had to take for the whole of was to just shut down the coal industry, and then they will comply. For Europe, at the time, continental Europe, what they did was to have the East Germany join the West Germany, and then did a per capita emission, which meant they didn't have to do anything. They didn't have to affect their energy consumption and application to the industry to manufacture, to run the economy. China are not gotten to even the limit yet, so it can do anything. Japan was at that level of the compliance. So really, and Australia, of course, nothing. Africa, we are 0.03 or something. So the only country, as it were, that had to do something about its energy consumption is America. And the US, if it decreased its consumption, it meant that its industry or industrial edge that it has over other countries in the world will be diminished. This is the resistance from the Republicans, who indeed are industrialists, they are capitalists. So I brought all this out so that when we are discussing climate change, we ourselves as Africans, we should read in between the lines. We should know when indeed the science is skewed towards what we need to believe as evidence. And as Africans, we should also have our mind so active that we can challenge some of these things and maybe provide alternatives and options. So in combating climate change and its impacts, what are the opportunities for researchers, innovators, and entrepreneurs? One is that you can have a group action. If human activities that deplete the ozone layer are to a very large extent reduced and the carbon sinks are well managed and protected, then the ongoing global warming will seriously decline. To reduce the emission of greenhouse gases, clean and environment-friendly technologies are needed, and this provides a brilliant opportunity for researchers and business opportunities to explore. One, by providing industrial processes are converted to machines that emit limited or no greenhouse gases. Automobiles and industrial machines should be improved upon to use only ethanol, solar engines, electric engines, or hybrid electric engines, and so on and so forth. These are just ideas. Of course, renewable energy will be an opportunity of investment, also of research, also improving efficiency, appropriate economic and regulatory framework for customers through renewable energy sources. Of course, also as a group action by protecting the sustainable management and enhancement of terrestrial and marine ecosystem, which act as carbon sinks and resist to greenhouse gases. Again, there are things as researchers that we can do to enhance the efficiency of these natural sinks and protection. And of course, developing skills to participate in carbon trade and clean development mechanism projects and programs. That's a business, because if you have the skill, you can participate. I think for individual actions, we can have tree planting. We can reduce our food waste. We can cut fossil fuel consumption, reducing our own carbon prints. And also as citizens, we can hold government accountable to ensure they make climate change one of their cardinal economic principles. So in conclusion, whatever side of the debate we find ourselves, it is incontrovertible that anthropogenic greenhouse gases are impacting and warming up our ice house Earth, that is the cold Earth. Climate change terminology as used and conceived by modern scientists and government is a global reality that must be addressed now. The colossal quantities of carbon dioxide pumped into the atmosphere over the past century are warming temperatures at a seriously rapid rate. Because of this, flooding, extreme weather, wildfires, and other natural disasters are occurring more frequently and at a greater degree of intensity than ever. Decisive, committed actions must be taken today to avert an added temperature rise exceeding the present temperature for the Earth. This is the worst tipping point before permanent catastrophes descend and change life as we all know today. Today, we only have 0.5 degrees leeway before this happens. It's time to punch that red alert button to push everyone in the world to lower their carbon emission now before it becomes too late. The impacts of global warming are being felt across the globe. Extreme heat waves have caused tens of thousands of deaths around the world in recent years. And in an alarming sign of events to come, Antarctica has been losing about 134 billion metric tons of ice since year 2002. this trade could speed up if we keep burning fossil fuel at our present pace. Some experts say sorry, I think so this also is causing sea level rise several meters over the next 50 to 150 years. Forest farm cities will face troublesome new pests, heat waves, heavy downpours, and increased flooding. I think only about 4 days ago, I was in Houston, and unusually, we had a stone storm. Really, really unprecedented. So these things they are real, the impact real. Of course, you have allergies, asthma, infectious disease outbreaks, and so on and so forth. So I want to submit here that let all of us join hands together to play our part, whether as individuals or as group, to ensure that we use our resources in a sustainable way and in a way that does not increase the anthropogenic sources of greenhouse gases, and continue to wish this generation and the one to come the best. Thank you very much. Once again, I apologize. I did not prepare too well, but I hope I made some impact with this delivery. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. The session has been very informative, educative, and insightful. You've opened our understanding to opportunities available in the space of climate change with respect to actions to be taken to reduce the carbon footprint, as well as the emission of carbon dioxide. So now there will be opportunity for those that have questions to ask their questions first, or anyone that have comments. So please, you can indicate by showing your virtual hand. You can raise your virtual hand up in order to ask question, or you can drop it on the chat box so that we can pick it up from there. Okay, we have one Mr. Emmanuel Akinwumi. Please, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much. Please, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof, for taking us to environmental school this morning, Department of Climate Change. I felt extremely enriched by your presentation. Thank you. The issue of climate change is really a topical issue globally, but on the perspective of developing countries like Nigeria, there have been like a general apathy and reluctance for so many reasons. Some of these reasons sound very legitimate. Some of them are disputable. For instance, there is a general consensus that most of these countries that are singing this song and allow us, and encouraging us to follow, closing our eyes without asking questions, they develop their system using the same type of resources, especially coal, to generate energy, for an example, which they are now clamoring as toxic with disdain. And when you look at development issues in Africa, if you continue to take away some of these energy resources in the name of the spirit of climate change management, we may be undoing ourselves one way or the other. The other issue is the issue of resource shortage in Africa. By my own little experience in Canada, which is one of those countries that really have good respect for climate change, there are a lot of resources allocated in terms of carrots more than stick, to encourage people from household level to corporate level to buy into this idea. I remember a time some years back, more than 15 years ago, when there was a subsidy for household equipment like refrigerators and dishwasher, stove, and so on. Bring the old ones that generate heavy energy and that use heavy energy, and come and exchange it with a modern one for almost peanuts. This is the type of carrots that are absolutely not available in Africa. So how can we be able to fall in line and develop these climate change sustainability issues without the necessary resources to back it up? So subsidy is an essential component of environmental management, which is not available. The other issue is at political level. The political will in Africa is very weak. Even the incoming president in Nigeria, the presidential elect, is already saying that, you know what, he's going to call the bluff. That's my interpretation of what he said. It's not the exact language that he used. Then he's going to call the bluff of these developed countries, asking us to fall in line on climate change without looking at our peculiar development challenges. How can we have some such huge resources of coal in Eastern Nigeria, for instance, and close our eyes and be looking at that? When I was in South Africa to do a project work for African Development Bank, I discovered they were still using, I'm talking about not more than 10 years ago, they were still using heavy coal. They were still using resources of, there is nothing they are using to generate electricity in the world that's not in South Africa, including coal. But in Nigeria, we don't want to use coal. And some pundits from developed countries are telling us not to use coal. We have to sit down and look at, okay, if we use coal, what is the environmental damage? If we don't use coal, what is the infrastructural damage? So we need to, the professor may wish to guide us how to balance the act between development issues and the issue of environmental damage. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Clearly, sir.
Do you want me to answer that, or we have more questions?
Okay. Let's take 2 more questions, sir. Then you take the 3 before we take another 6, sir. So we have one in the chat box. I don't know if anyone is raising virtual hand again. Or let me just go ahead and read the one we have in the chat box. So I'll read directly, sir. Okay. Thanks, Prof. Is there a repository of climate change data for Nigeria that we can access? So that question is from Miracle Oso.
Okay.
Is there any other question so that Prof can take the 3 at a go? You can go ahead and address the 2 questions, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Ima Kiwumi, yes, I understand that there's some lackadaisical attitude to issue of climate change, but some efforts have been made at the federal level, and I think to some extent at the state levels, because it's issues like climate change that force the creation of ministries of environment, environmental protection agencies, and so on and so forth. And also, we have what we call the communications, national communications. That is what we have communicated to the UNFCCC that we will do to fight and combat climate change. So the question of where you can have the data in Nigeria, the climate change data is in our national communications. So I'm sure, I don't know if you can Google it and get it from the Ministry of Environment website, but if not, if you just write to the Director of Climate Change Department, they will send this to you. Now, you also mentioned the idea of government interventions to encourage compliance and cut down on energy use. Yes, in developed countries, in fact, today, you have so many Tesla type cars, and your bulbs and all those things are just low energy consuming. In Nigeria, we have the policy, but poorly implemented. And then it appears that it is not a priority. So for us as citizens, and one of the points that I made is that we must hold government accountable. It's a pity that for Nigeria, and I lament that seriously, our leaders, we don't put them to any form of accountability tests. Offer you are, the more the chance that you become the leader. But we all cannot just sit down and allow these kind of things to continue forever. Let's all think how we can stop this nonsense, because in my view, this is serious nonsense. So one of the outcome of this nonsense is nobody is taking climate change, making it a priority. But for us also as individuals, you are talking about coal. Now, coal, for example, was outright banned under climate change agreement. But over time, now we have clean coals. They have researched in all these countries, so there is clean burning coal that is qualifying for climate change. And then a test of sincerity of economic leaders of the world is the Ukraine war. During the Ukraine war, Russia cut off its gas supply to Europe, and they were using coal that they say was banned. See, Africa must think. So when today there's very little money coming into oil and gas development, in fact, the transition gas that was approved in France at the last COP, which is natural gas, is not being funded as we speak now. So for Africa, we need to come together and know what is our interest. We are not saying we want to violate the conventions, but we must do those things that will also enable us develop our own economy, one of which is abundance of energy. And the gas that we have, including this fossil fuel, will be sources of energy and other products. Why I will not support that we stop mining oil is that almost 80–85% of what we use today as materials are products of crude oil. So if we stop that, your house, your shed, your tile, your window, everything, your pen, everything, your car. So again, Africa must think well how to survive and not be led by the nose all the time. And Nigeria can lead, and you and I can now come in and sit together. So what I will suggest to Opolo is that we can find a group that will continue to think. If we cannot get government to listen to us, we see what we can do in our own small way to promote Africa determination for economic emancipation. Does that answer your question?
Thank you, Prof. You answered my question quite well. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Prof. And your message or counsel to Opola have actually been taken note of as well. Thank you for that, sir. So I don't know if any other participant is having any question or contribution at this point on what Prof have spoken on, which is climate change real? Any question or contribution from anyone?
What I'm going to do, I'm going to send to Apollo the full paper because I really rushed this, again, because I was not that properly prepared. But I will send you the long prose of this presentation. Okay. I will send the electronic to you.
Okay, sir. We appreciate that. Thank you, sir. So we have one virtual.
And I have some hard copies. I have some hard copies I can give to you when I return to Lagos.
All right, sir. We appreciate that. Thank you very much. So we have Dr. Samson Simon. His virtual hand is up. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Good afternoon, everybody. Prof, thank you for this insightful presentation. I just want to make some few comments. Climate change, I remember one of the presidential candidates that Prof alluded to that said we would not help the West. Something I'm paraphrasing, I'm not using his exact words. But what he actually said, he made it to look as if climate change is a Western problem. I sincerely beg to differ because I remember the floods in 2012 and even last year, 10 years after the 2012 floods, and the damage these floods have done to the Nigerian economy, particularly livelihoods of people and agriculture. I remember said virtually all the rice fields that they had, particularly in Nasarawa and Benue and other places, were cleaned, they were cleared. And because of that, there is every possibility that the prices of food products and particularly rice will go up. I understand where an average Nigerian is coming from, that the developed countries expect us to jettison hydrocarbons. We are not fully ready for that because we are still battling the challenge, many challenges such as power and energy and other things. So it's not wise for us to completely discard even coal. I remember Prof mentioning coal. Coal is arguably the dirtiest fuel. Even coal, we are not making the most of the coal, particularly if you go to Enugu. I think Enugu is the main place, is the headquarters of coal in Nigeria. So we have to deploy all resources, we have to explore all avenues to succeed. But as much as possible, climate change is not a remote problem for us. The impact of climate change is being felt even here. So I think we have to strike a balance between pursuing a green economy as well as ensuring that the economy succeeds. Thank you.
Do I make comment or I wait?
You can go ahead and make comments. Thank you, Dr. Samson. You can go ahead.
Dr. Samson, you're absolutely right. It's not a Western problem. It's a global problem. But the train of climate change is moving so fast that Africans are being left behind. We did nothing. We do not have governments that are responsive to these issues. And I can say this, entrepreneurs and economists who have a hard time finding foreign investments inflow to Africa and to Nigeria if it's not taking care of climate change technology. So the challenge here is that seriously, we must have the advocacy that will make government accountable. That look, this is climate change. Let's have policies and practice that will ensure that we are climate change compliant. In technology, many things, as I said. For Nigeria, but it cannot also be done alone by Nigeria. Africa must rise as a group to be able to tackle climate change as a group, as nations, as more or less United Nations of Africa. Because if we do not assert that our own policies to balance development with climate change, they have balanced their own development and climate change. We are the one that we are still groping the dark as to how to navigate our way out of this concept that today is determining the flow of resources, money. So as entrepreneurs, let's also wear our thinking cap to be sure that we beat them at their game.
Thank you very much, Prof. Any other question or comments from anyone? Okay, in the absence of that, I will call on Dr. Olanike Ogunshake to help us appreciate our speaker of today on behalf of Opolo and the attendees of this webinar. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Prof, thank you very much for giving us this insightful opportunity. And you really opened our eyes to ensuring that climate change is actually real. And for us all to take our immediate action, especially at our end, and that's of the government. So we really want to appreciate the time you have actually taken to facilitate this webinar for us. And subsequently, we hope to leverage on your expertise for more of this and other engagement as well. Then for the participants, I really want to appreciate your time taking to actually join this webinar. And I hope you all have actually learned one or two things from this webinar. So we're glad to see more of you, especially for subsequent webinars of Opolo on climate change initiative. Thank you very much once again. And thank you, Prof. Thank you, bye.
You're welcome, bye-bye, thank you, thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Prof. It's nice having you here, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity.
I'll be expecting the documents you promised, sir.
Yes, I will send it to you.
All right, sir. Thank you, sir. So bye from here.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.